Okay, hello guys. Now I'll explain about the attracting international production. So, FDI inflows are concentrated in high income countries with substantially smaller flow going to the middle income countries, and almost no flows going at all in the low income countries. For example, is in 2008, low income countries received only 1% of the global FDL, but even this 1% of the 2008 total was highly concentrated in the three low-income countries like Vietnam, Ghana, and Yemen. And these three countries received one half of this 1% in 2008. Developing countries location, there are three distinct patterns of the FDI. Natural resource or the resource-based FDI, domestic serving FDI, and the export processing. And then countries can attempt to increase FDI inflows is through bilateral investment or regional investment treaties. Sometimes there are jointly known as an investment agreement and defined as the United Nations Conference on the Trade and Development as agreement between two countries for the reciprocal encouragement, promotion, and protection of investment in each other territories by companies based in either country. But unfortunately, this all of this agreement usually favorable for the MNE, not for the country itself. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
So hello everyone. So today we're going to present about the monetary unions. So before we discuss it further about the monetary unions, let me introduce our group member first. So there's Benedict Adrian, and there is me, Yeremia Habakuk, and there is Zelika Saputri. Okay, so the European Monetary Union outlines. So the European Monetary Union, or as known as EMU, is a monetary union among 17 countries as of early 2011, in which the euro served as the shared currency. And the euro is administered by the ECB, or as known as European Central Bank. And in 1999, there were only 11 members, which is Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain. Well, but finally they add Greece in 2001, Slovenia in 2007, Cyprus and Malta in 2008, and the Slovak Republic in 2009, and also Estonia joined in 2011. During the initial years of the EMU, the euro was invisible, used only as a unit of account and for elections transaction. But beginning in 2002, it appears on the streets in the forms of notes and coins. The euro is therefore now legal tender in the EMU member countries for all types of transactions. It also plays a large role both in the European Union and the world economy. Okay, next one. We're going to talk. We're going to discuss about the planning the European Monetary Union. Well, the history of monetary integration in Europe has roots that go back to the immediate post-World War II period. And well, we already discussed in chapter 8 the evolution of the European Union from the 1951 to 2007. Um, in this table, we also sorry. So in this table, Uh, Note that after the formation of the European Economic Community (EEC) in 1958, there were occasions suggestion that work should also be undertaken towards monetary unions. However, the real monetary unions initiative began in 1970 when a commission chaired by the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Pierre Werner, issued a report providing a detailed plan for a step-by-step movement to an EMU by 1980. Some details regarding Pierre Werner are provided in the next slide. The European Council of Ministers of Economics and Finance, or as known as ECOFIN, endorsed the Werner report in March 1971. So this is the country that including in European Central Bank, uh, there are there are Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Denmark, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Sweden, United Kingdom, and China. So next one, so Werner vision of an EMU by 1980 wasn't to come to pass. The early 1970s were characterized by the demise of the Bretton Woods system of global monetary arrangement during 1971. Key European currencies, including the German Dutch mark, began to float, and US President Nixon closed the cold window, signaling an end to a monetary era. In response to this crisis, a year later, the members of the EC decided to band their exchange rates within 2.25% of each other. This became known as the snake in a tunnel or snake. Okay, so next one, this is the table of the history of the EU, or European Union. So in 1951, initiative European Coal and Steel Community, Treaty of Paris, members at Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and rest is like 1959, 58 is 73. Well, in this table, this is the history of the European Union. So maybe that's all from me, and next will be presented by my friends. Thank you.
So I will continue my friend explanation. First, I will explain about the police stances. So as you can see here, this is a table 22.3. It's the types of trade-related investment measures. As you can see, the policy size can be grouped into ownership requirements and performance requirements. Ownership requirements may be absolute, and as in the case of foreign firms being excluded from certain sector of on national security grounds, Mexico has done this and its petroleum sector. So, for example, alternative they may simply limit foreign ownership to a maximum specified amount. So, China once limited foreign enterprise to join future with China firms, in which the foreign firms could own a maximum of 50% of the venture. So many of the above requirements are also known as trade-related infrastructure terms, uh, and are listed in this table. The markers agreement on trade include an agreement on terms, so which prohibits some types of trims in the case of goods. So this include domestic content, trade balancing, foreign exchange, balancing and domestic sale requirements. So export performance requirements were not prohibited. Investment related policies in service are covered under the general agreement trade and services. So we go to the table here. Measure or local content requirements. The explanation, this requires that a certain amount of local input use production. So it's the common is prohibited by trims, and the measure of trade balancing requirements. Its explanation. The explanation is requires that imports be a certain proportion of exports. Uh, this with the local content requirements. It's common prohibited by trims. And next is foreign exchange balancing requirements. The explanation is required that use of foreign exchange for importing be a certain proportion of export, and the foreign exchange brought into the host country by the firms. It is still some as a prohibits by trims. And next is domestic sales requirements. The explanation is required that a proportion of output be sold locally. The com is prohibited by trims. So next is manufacturing requirements. Requires that certain products be manufactured locally. And then manufacturing restriction prohibits the manufacturing of certain products in the host country. And sorry. And next is export performance requirements. It requires that certain share of output be exported. So it's prohibited or discouraged by many BATs and RATs. RATs. So next is exchange restriction technology transfer requirements. Its limits a firm's access to foreign exchange requires that certain technologies be transferred or that certain R&D function be performance locally. So it's a prohibited or discouraged by many BATs and RITs. So next is licensing requirements requires that the foreign firms licenses certain technology to local firms, and the remittance rejection limit the right of the foreign firm to right profit, and the local equity requirements. It's a matrix that amount of a firm equity that can be held by local investor. It's a prohibited or discouraged by many BATs and RIATs. And next, I will show you the table 22.4. It's export purchasing zones. As you can see here, I have a number of countries with EPZ, number of EPZ employment account for by China. So here, as you can see, it's the year. So in return for exporting most are the wall of their output, favorable treatment in the areas of infrastructure, taxation, tariff of imported intermediate goods and labor costs as a service. Note that EPZR simply a device for bonding together money consumption on the part of a host country. So EPZ has been a popular policy device and have been used in the many countries and around countries around the world. So as you can see in the table 22.4, give a sense of the number and existence of EPZs with of them in existence in 20 point 2006. In most cases, APC involve relatively labor intensive or like in manufacturing, such as textile, clothing, footwear, and electronics. So next is promoting linkages. So consider the notion of global production network GPN as we saw there any MNE needs to decide what part of the GPN to undertake itself and what part to leave to other firms in buyer or supplier relationship. It is possible for MNEs to leave some part of the upstream component of the GPN to other firms, but choose to buy from local firms in the country in which is located. This is known as backward linkages to the domestic supplier. So some new thing in the area of facilitating backward linkages suggests that local content requirements should be replaced by efforts to support local suppliers in their effort to secure contract with foreign MNEs. So if a foreign MNE can be induced to source inputs locally rather than importing them, the host country can gain a number of important benefits. First is employment can increase because the source inputs are new products. And the second is the balance of payment can improve because the inputs will no longer be imported. And the third is production technologies can be better adapted to local conditions. And the last is the tangible and intangible assets. And the some degree list ticket lists and paths from the foreign MNE to the local host country suppliers, such as transfer, can have significant benefit for both the foreign MNE and the local suppliers. So next, the key policy question for developing countries is how to foster backward linkages between foreign MNEs and potential local suppliers. And the linkage promotion process involves many players, including the government, the foreign MNC, and the local supplier, professional organization, commercial organization, and the academic institution. And the key role of the government is one of coordination, attempting to bridge the information gaps. And among the players, the government can do this in a number of different ways. And the first is in the real of information. Attempts can be made to provide a matching service between MNEs and local suppliers. This can be done by inviting the relevant players to linkage promotion forums. And the second is in the realm of technology. So efforts can be made to provide support in standard formation, materials testing, and patent registration. For example, this have been some of the function of the Singapore Institute of the Standard and Industrial Research. In addition, MNS can be invited to be involved in programs designed to upgrade local supplier technology capabilities. And the third, in the realm of human resource development, efforts can be made to provide technical training and managerial training. For example, these have been some of the function of the Taiwan's China Production Centers. And the last in the R or the R of, of finance obstacles to access on the part of small firms can be removed. For example, this has been on of the function of the Korean Technology Banking Corporation. And next, I will explain about the transfer pricing. So there is a common practice among many that can, in some circumstances, be detrimental to the country thus hosting them. So this practice is known as the transfer pricing. So transfer governing international production pricing problem rise from the fact that MNEs are global corporation, whereas DAX system are locally defined. MNEs can trigger adjust the internal pricing of their interfirm trade to serve declared profits of subsidiaries to low tax countries. So the goal is to maximize the post-tax profit of the firms. So for example, a vertically integrated M&E production copper, perhaps the M&E mines the copper in an African country and changes in some elementary processing of uh, of the ore in the country. So uh, the exported and is further processed in the Emini hub country. This is an example in reference trade. So the solution to the transfer pricing problem is multifaceted. Dunning and London in 2008 in provide a good review also to analyze the policy of the options exist because there is competition for MNE activity between home and host country and between different host country, and the opportunities for MNEs to play when nation agents in other are enhanced without the establishment of supranational institution and harmonized intergovernmental action toward or transfer pricing. So that's all for me.